Good morning, everybody. No, I'm not the tall, slim, bald guy that you normally see every weekend. Sean, thank the Lord Sean's not here. Sean, if you're watching this, I love you. Just know that the fanboy had to get you back. Now, I want to raise of hands. Who here gets nervous or used to get nervous before a big moment? Something big like maybe, yeah. Everybody in here? Okay, cool. Maybe it's presenting to the CEO, maybe you're taking the bar, or maybe it's a big performance or a big game, right? Mostly everybody in here, you get nervous, that's normal. Now, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Lucca, and a lot of people know me as a football player. And being an athlete in my faith, I try to rely on the Lord to provide me strength during the games. But it can get a little tricky sometimes because before games, I'm the type to get super nervous. I'm talking about handshaking. I feel like I'm gonna throw up. It's not easy. So before games, I started to pray to help with this issue. Now, it would look like this. I come out under the bright Friday night lights, and normally I'm accompanied by my teammates during this prayer. Andre's joined me before. And so we would come out right before the national anthem. Usually it's during the coin toss. We would come out onto the field. I'd gather us in a huddle, and then I'd tell them to take their helmets off. I'd tell them, kneel, touch a brother, touch his shoulder, and I pray over us. Now, my athletes, musicians, performers, again, you know that before a big game, big performance, big anything that's just reoccurring in your life and maybe a season, you know that entire day, you can't stop thinking about it. It's always in the back of your mind, and for me, this is no different. I mean, whether I'm at school and I'm arguing with my best friend over something stupid and pointless, like who would win in a fight, a gorilla or a grizzly bear? Or I'm in the back of, he's not here this morning, but when I'm in the back of Jordan Sisson's class trying to learn about the factors of supply and demand, or it's simply when I'm just trying to figure out what I'm gonna eat for lunch that day. It's always in the back of my mind. That game, that Friday night, it's always in the back of my mind. Now, between all those things during the day, I get so nervous, but there's one moment when the peace just overflows in my heart, the anxiety exits, the nervousness isn't there anymore, I just feel still. And it's during that prayer under the bright lights. And it's so crazy to me because when I feel like my life is the loudest on that day, I mean, the student section's roaring behind me. I got my dad yelling at me to return a kickoff while I'm trying to make sure my cleats look good so I know my next Instagram post will look better than the last one. When my life feels like it's going a million miles an hour, yes, me worrying about my football outfit means my life is going a million miles an hour. When I feel like I'm in that moment, when I'm in that circle, I feel like I can truly adjust to my situation. I'm able to feel a sense of peace. And I also bring this up because I feel like this is something that I've learned to handle super well over my past 4 years of being in high school. Learning how to biblically adjust to my situation by leaning on my faith. And I hope to continue to learn more because by no means do I have anything figured out. By no means. But I have learned that there are two components that go into these moments. And it's the emotions that you have before the moment arises, and then what you do and how you handle those emotions when it comes to unfold. And I'm not the only one who had to learn how to lean on their faith when times get tough. I mean, there's so many people you can look at in the Bible that learned how to lean on their faith. You think of Jesus, you think of Esther, you think of Paul, John the Baptist, but the person who comes to my mind is Joseph. Now, so for those of you who have your Bibles here this morning, please open to Genesis chapter 39. We will be going over the story of Joseph. Now, here's a little introduction. If you don't know Joseph, don't worry, I got you. So we'll be going over 3 main phases or stages, chapters in Joseph's life this morning. And the first one actually starts before chapter 39. It's in chapter 37 in Genesis. And the story takes place in Canaan. And Joseph is with his 10 older brothers and his father Jacob. And Joseph off the bat, he's already a miracle child. He's an answer from God. And he had a robe especially made for him. Man, could you imagine your youngest sibling having that? And so one day, Joseph is out on the fields, and he's with his brothers, and they're tending to some flocks, and they commit a bad deed. What? We don't know. But Joseph, not gonna lie, he's kind of being a little bit of a tattletale here. He goes and tells his father about his son or his brothers committing the bad deed. And so brothers aren't very fond of their little brother Joseph. So a little time passes, and again, Joseph tries to go out to the fields to go find his brothers. But lo and behold, he can't find them. He starts looking around, asking around, hey, have you seen my brothers? Everybody's like, no, we haven't seen your brothers. And it's because they're plotting to kill Joseph. Dun, dun, dun. And so they end up capturing Joseph, but they don't end up killing him. They figure while we're at it, might as well get some money. So they send him and sell him to the Ishmaelites. Now, his brothers who had just sold him went back to their father Jacob, and they told him Joseph was killed by a ferocious animal, and the animal had eaten him to pieces. Meanwhile, Joseph, fully alive, is in the house of an official, Potiphar. And Potiphar likes Joseph, and in chapter 39, verses 2 and 4, the Lord was with Joseph so that he prospered, and he lived in the house of his Egyptian master. When his master saw that the Lord was with him, and the Lord gave him success in everything he did, Joseph found favor in his eyes and became his attendant. Now, even though Joseph doesn't end up in the worst situation, the guy's not dead, it's still pretty bad. He got kidnapped, he was sold to an Egyptian master as a slave, and he has no way to contact his father or let any of his family members know, hey, I'm still alive, please come save me. Yet despite his situation, Joseph stays faithful. Joseph was able to adjust to his situation because God was with him. Now, this brings us to our second stage. Joseph becomes all grown up, right? A couple years pass, big, strong, handsome guy, and he's now in charge of the official's house and his field. But remember how I said big, strong, handsome guy? Potiphar, his master, Potiphar's wife ends up trying to sleep with Joseph, right? She finds Joseph attractive, but Joseph keeps telling her, like, nah, girl, like, I'm not trying to sleep with you. But she's kind of the worst. She's kind of the worst, and she flips the story on its head so that she claims Joseph was the one that was trying to sleep with her. And obviously Potiphar, he's going to listen to his wife, so he wasn't very happy about this. He wasn't very happy with Joseph, so he sends Joseph to prison. Oof, not very fun. But listen to this. Chapter 39, verses 21 and 22. But while Joseph was there in prison, the Lord was with him. He showed him kindness and granted him favor in the eyes of the prison warden. Again, another sucky thing happens in Joseph's life, but God was still with him. It's going to be a recurring theme this morning. Now, then Joseph, while in jail, he meets these two servants of Pharaoh, head guy in Egypt, right? And he gets curious and asked, why are you two so sad today? He can see it in their faces. And I like that Joseph gets curious because he gets involved, and I would have done the same thing. If somebody's sad, I'm going to want to know why. And one day, a couple years ago, this actually took control of me too. Now, I always want to know why things are the way that they are. So one day, I wanted to learn how muscles grow, right? How do people become so big and strong? And so for this, I'm going to ask Andre Lopez, fellow senior, to come on stage, please. Now, Andre has 2 dumbbells. And Andre, I want you to just start curling.
Yeah, Andre.
Yeah, Andre. And so a common misconception is that when you work out right now, your muscles are growing. That's false. What happens is that when you work out right now, muscle fibers are tearing in Andre's arms. Keep going, I'm not letting you stop. Muscle fibers are tearing in his arms, and that, okay, you can stop now. And it's actually after the workout, when you rest, that is when the muscles grow. They repair themselves to try to adjust to the new weight and to try and make it easier on the body. Now, actually, a key example can be seen with Andre. His muscles have been growing. So this is Andre in 8th grade. This is Andre in 8th grade. Obviously, kind of a skinny kid, but you grew, right? And this is after 4 years when Andre started pumping some iron. Boom, right? And I know Andre's wearing an oversized polo, so you can't really see his muscles this morning, but you trust me, they're there, okay? They're there. All right, you can go back down. Let's give it a hand for Andre. Now, I don't think Joseph ever would have looked that good, but it's okay. So I'm going to jump back to the story. So Joseph, while talking to the servants of Pharaoh, he interprets them, and he interprets the dreams spot on. And we see that Joseph has a true gift of interpreting dreams right off the bat. But once the servants get released, Joseph is still in prison for another 2 full years. Then Pharaoh starts to have dreams of his own. And despite this, Pharaoh wants an explanation on why he's having such crazy dreams. He's dreaming about cows and rivers and stuff that's crazy. But he goes around and he tries to ask around, hey, can you interpret my dream? Can you interpret my dream? What am I seeing right now? Nobody can interpret his dreams. But he hears from the servants that there's this one guy in prison. There's this one prisoner who is really good at interpreting dreams. So Pharaoh brings Joseph out of prison, and he goes, can you interpret my dream? Joseph says, I cannot do it, but God will give Pharaoh the answer he desires. And this brings us to our third stage, which is post-prison in Joseph's life. And when Joseph interprets Pharaoh's dream, it amazes Pharaoh. It ended up being so spot on. And Pharaoh is so impressed by this that he says, you shall be in charge of my palace, and all of my people are to submit to your orders. With only respect to the throne will I be greater than you. Joseph, a prisoner, was the only one who was able to interpret Pharaoh's dreams. Not his servants, not the wisest of Egypt, not their best magicians, a prisoner. This shows us what the true power of God can do in people's lives. And God was with Joseph that entire time. And Joseph trusted that God was on his side, despite probably a lot of emotional frustration by being sent to prison, because when Joseph finally got his opportunity to get out of there, he leaned on his faith and he said, I cannot, but God can. And I know that there's someone here this morning that's going through the same thing, same season that Joseph was. You feel like you're in a hard place. You feel like that relationship worked out. You feel like you're stuck. But I want to tell you this morning, I want to encourage that person that you can get out of that foothold. You can get that relationship back. You can make things right in your life. You can get through it. And I want to encourage you to keep carrying your faith just like Joseph did, because God is with you in this very moment and the ones to come. The Lord was with Joseph, and if he gave him power, he can give that same power to you too. Then later in the chapter, Joseph becomes in charge of Egypt, and the guys live in the dream life. He has 2 sons and names them Manasseh and Ephraim. Manasseh because God has made me forget all of my trouble in all of my father's household. Then Ephraim because God has made me faithful in the land of my suffering. Joseph recognized that throughout all of his hard times, we're talking betrayal, slavery, prison, all of the things that he went through while being a fully innocent man, his storm came to pass, and God was the one to get him through all of that. And that whole time, God was breaking down Joseph's spiritual muscle so that it may be rebuilt stronger than before. Now he has all of these good things, a strong spirit to handle a good life, and he has favor in both the eyes of the Lord and man because he stayed faithful while God was breaking him. Now, I want to give a disclaimer. This is not prosperity gospel. Just because you're doing your part in your walk and you're staying faithful to God, it does not mean that you will receive all of the blessings that you want or desire. Again, Joseph experienced slavery, betrayal, and imprisonment. And also, we see this with the man that we talk about every single Sunday, Jesus. I mean, in Matthew 27, actually before Jesus even went on the cross, he was going through it in the Garden of Gethsemane. He was so emotionally just distraught. He thought his emotions would kill him before the cross ever would. And things did not get better for him either. We know this. His ending was not pretty. Matthew 27 tells us there were nails in his hands. A whole crowd mocked the perfect man that he was, and he was beaten so bad you could not tell if he was a man or a woman. But even though Jesus was going through all of that, even though Jesus was holding all of those emotions, he was still perfect on the cross, and he was obedient, carrying and leaning on his faith, because he knows that that would get him through the trial, and he knew that there would be brighter days ahead of him. So, when you go through trials and tribulations, maybe it's cancer, you get laid off, something's going wrong in the family, there's a loss of a loved one, because these situations will occur. Life is not static, it keeps going. It is our faith that allows us to navigate our emotions and our situations through these tough times, because that is where our spiritual muscle is built. And this can be seen in your prayer life. When your prayer life increases because you keep asking God for your situation to change, even though it doesn't. Your relationships are becoming sturdy because you keep asking those people for help. It can be seen when your patience is growing because you're waiting on that thing, or you're stuck in traffic a lot. That's where spiritual muscle is built, and it's navigating those situations. So I want to ask, what is a situation that needs navigating? And how can you carry your faith and lean on Christ and lean on God to get you through those situations? Because we know that when emotions come, we can control them because we have the power to. We have the power of God in our hearts to control those emotions. And when the moment unfolds, be just like Jesus. Stay obedient. Trust in the one who knows what's going to happen tomorrow, even though you might not. And so, as I close out this morning, I want to invite our worship team back on the stage. And as we sing this last song, if you are in need of prayer this morning, our elders and their spouses will be gathered around the room. And the last thing that I want to say is, I encourage you, again, no matter what the situation is, trust whose hands that you're in, and know that in the mountaintops, in the valleys, highs and lows, in prison, in the kingdom, in the workout, and in the rest, God is at work through all of it. Amen. He is never not moving on your behalf. And may we be a community that would recognize God is at work through every single season of our lives. Thank y'all so very much, and God bless.